We do it live. We do it live. Ooh, we back in it. Let's go. I'll pump myself up. I am Nic Rattlehead in somewhere in California. I don't know where, but he's there. Is my man's with the master plan, 100 grand. Oh man, only you know how much I love you, man. Matt the Graff. And in spirit, together, in tandem, we would like to welcome you to Aftershock Reviews, your place for the best extreme music reviews, man. And I've got another doozy. I've got another whirlwind just waiting on you. And this one is called Devouring Ruin by Canadian grindcore amalgam band Wake. Why do I call them an amalgam band? Well, man, I'm so glad you asked. Check this out. They, for me, like Full of Hell, it's the shirt, they take grindcore, but what they do is they start bringing in other elements of extreme music to make something that is completely theirs. Now, I was turned on to Wake in 2018 with their release Misery Rights, right? And I was really drawn towards their cold, almost granite-like riffs and these death metal vocals. And at some point, even some of the vocals started to sound a little familiar. I was like, why do I know some of these vocals? Why do I? And then come to find out, oh my gosh, Ethan McCarthy from Primitive Man and Vermin Womb was helping out. He wasn't doing the lion's share, but I think he was guest vocaling on 2 tracks from that album. I was like, this album is great. It's wonderful. Even made it into my honorable mentions in 2018. But here is the kicker though. I heard the song, The Abyssal Plain, right? And I was like, yo, bruh, what is this? The way that this whole album is produced and mixed, it made Misery Rights seem, I don't know, condensed, right? And almost smaller in comparison. So let's get into it really quick. Let's get into it. Let me go back to my original question. What is my original question? Why do I call them an amalgam band? Well, they take elements of grindcore, they take elements of death metal, oh yeah, buddy, and then they take elements of black metal, like thin, atmospheric type black metal, and put it all together and make something colossal. Just make a huge freaking statue in dedication to what their sound is. And how do I know this? Let's get into the track listing really quickly. Dissolve and Release is the intro track to this album. And what it is it's not even 2 minutes long. That's why I call it an intro track. But what it is they kind of avoid the cliche of saying, okay, cool, as an intro track, what we're going to have is maybe some sound, or maybe somebody screaming, or maybe we're going to have something, kind of corny and cheesy to create an atmosphere, to kind of do a little bit of world building, to bring them into the painting that is our album, right? No, what they do is they come in with these drum rolls on the snare, almost paradiddle-like, and we get the first taste, the first snippet, the first little bit of atmosphere that they're about to submerge us in later on in the album. And it is wonderful. We get those death metal Ethan McCarthy like guttural groans and grunts. We get some shrieking, oh my gosh, shrieking black metal vocals, and they do this whole wonderful dance in the mix. It's great. And then we get into, I want to make sure I say this right, we get into Cana Tavoro. Bruh, yo, look, check this out. So what Cana Tavoro means is it's apparently a Fiji term for sleep paralysis, right? So I'm guessing, for what I read, and I read this in a Revolver magazine article about the band when they were releasing the music video for this particular track, is the fact that the lead singer suffers from sleep paralysis since he was a kid. And what he found out was the Fiji term for sleep paralysis, back then when you would suffer from it, right, that culture believed that That was a sleep demon messing with you. There was a sleep demon somewhere bothering you. And we all know, when you go back and look at history, even our Western culture, we believed back then that if you suffer from sleep paralysis, the old wives' tale was it's a demon sitting on your chest, right? So back then, what they would do is, if a family member saw that somebody was or felt somebody was suffering from sleep paralysis, when it was actually happening to them, they would actually scream "Kanea, Kanea," right? Now, what that was is that would keep the demon there. It would keep them there, so they can ask them, why are they bothering their family member? So when you take that into consideration, when they craft this song, it is wonderful. And it starts out chaotic. The grindcore blast beats blare, but keep in mind, I said black metal, and I said atmospheric black metal. So there's a lot of reverb on the guitars and stuff like that. It feels very cavernous. But here's the thing, though. In said cavern, there is no wasted space. What do I mean by that? The guitars are huge, right? But at the same time, the percussion is pummeling, and whatever space is left is filled up with this growling vocal and this shrieking vocal, almost sometimes doing a call and answer type of thing throughout the duration of the track. And it is freaking-nificent as they go from passage to passage, going from black metal to a death metal to a black metal type of vibe, type of motif, right? And it fits the overarching idea, because at some point it feels like you're being like somebody screaming out for somebody else. You're hearing almost at some point, Kanea, Kanea, them screaming for whoever is suffering from sleep paralysis in said track. Now, we get into one of the big selling points, one of the creme de la creme elements to this album. What is that? Transitions. This is going to be the only, and I mean the only, hard stop to a song in this album. What I mean by that is, for the duration of the rest of the album, after this, when we go into the Abysmal Plain and to the end of the album, what's going to happen is the album is going to transition in the songs beautifully, and then from song to song beautifully, because the Abysmal Plain is, first off, probably my favorite track, right? And you're probably going to hear me say that a lot because this album is just magnificent. But the Abysmal Plain is one of my favorite tracks, right? And the reason I say this is because the Abysmal Plain does a great job of transitioning from ideas, either using percussion, right? Or they're using sound to do so, using noise and white noise to create tension and build that tension. And then the percussion comes in with stabbing hits to introduce a whole nother idea that might be more rooted in death metal, or it might be more rooted in doom metal. And then they use more percussion to transition to another idea. Case in point, when the album starts out, yet again, we're still in grindcore mode, right? Blistering blast beats, right? We've got screaming, yelling, but yet again, the clouds of black metal atmosphere are still looming ominously over us, right? And then all of a sudden, we get, it's almost like a triplet guitar punch, just straight to the okay, I'm kind of bird chested. I probably shouldn't have done that. But we get hits in our chest, right? Oh my gosh. It is wonderful. Wonderful. Because there's the atmosphere. This man is screaming manically over it, and it goes boom, boom, boom. See, this is yet again where I start trying to sing parts to a song, knowing I can't sing, but I'm gonna do it anyway, because we have the white noise, and it goes like, it is nasty. It is gross. It is vile. But when we get that atmosphere, those reverb guitars come back in, it's oddly pretty. don't know how they do it. And I don't know how they do it, but it is wonderful the way they're able to switch and sway from one idea to another. Now, after the Abysmal Plane, we have Elegy. Now, Elegy is a interlude track, and it is a noise interlude track. Now, usually when these type of things happen, I usually hit the skip button because I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Give me some more of the meat. You know what I mean? I don't need none of this light stuff. Give me more of the meat and potatoes. Give me the good stuff. But here's the thing. The way that Abysmal Plane transitions into Elegy, is seamless. It almost feels like it's still the same track. This is what I mean by wonderful transitions, because the Abyssal Plane, the Abyssal Plane kind of ends in noise, and that noise continues to segue into Elegy, right? And Elegy is just this noise that kind of lets you come off of the high of the Abyssal Plane. It lets you come off of that high, and then it brings you right into the mouth of abolition. Wanted to make sure I said that right, at least. And this is another track that showcases their ability to present multiple ideas and transition between those ideas in just a beautiful, seamless, thought-provoking way. Now, after Mouth of Abolition, we have Payin. We're going to go with that. And this is another noise track, right? Yet and still, though, it's great because it's allowing me to catch my breath. And because with Mouth of Abolition, we have like, I think 3 to 4 different movements in that track. And yet again, the movements are great because they always come with a wonderful, memorable riff that allows me to go back and be like, I want to listen to that again. I want to do this again. And you start humming it to yourself long after the track is over. But after Payin, we get into the monster of the whole album, which is Torchbearer. Jeez Louise. And it, in the beginning, yet again, because this is a 4-movement track now in 10 minutes, the beginning is a Primitive Man track. I don't care what nobody say. If you go and listen to stuff like My Will, and you go and listen to stuff like Victim, and you go and listen to stuff like Caustic and Commerce and things of that nature, like, you'll hear what I say. And especially with those death metal vocals. It's gross. It's putrid. It makes you want to gag. But at the same time, though, them guitars are just so wonderful. It's great. You see what I mean? It's great. I don't see how you can be so wonderfully brutal and at the same time be so pretty, right? And that's what I struggle with when it comes to this album, because I'm like, oh, I want to be like That's Hard. I want to be like That's Hard, but it's oddly great it's not even oddly great. It's oddly beautiful at the same time, right? Even if you look at the album artwork, right? It's a beautiful painting when you look at it, but the subject matter of said painting is pretty ghastly. And that is the whole spirit of this track. Of this album. It's beautiful, it's brutal, it's ghastly, it's thoughtful, and it's wonderful. And Torchbearer is just the pinnacle of this idea, because you have the Primitive Man doom metal intro of this first half of this track. The second half is black metal, and they're transitioning with percussion, and they transition to the third leg of the album using noise and things like that. So they don't exhaust the same way of transitioning between ideas. It's not like, okay, in order to transition between this one to this one, we're always going to use noise, or to transition between this one and this one, we're always going to use percussion. They use different things to keep it fresh. They use different things to make sure that, I don't want to say you're paying attention, but that it doesn't become stale. There it is. It doesn't become stale. Ooh, see, look at him using his brain. This album, to me, continues the trend of thoughtful, well-crafted death doom, because it's especially now, especially the way that our society has been going lately with this COVID and things of that nature, right? Some people feel a little hopeless and things of that nature. Some people feel angry. Some people feel lonely, things of that nature, right? And I think albums like this help, right? Because they kind of speak to some of those emotions thoughtfully, whether we're listening to The World That Was by Temple of Void, pardon me, where we're listening to that album, or whether we're listening to Devouring Ruin by Wake, or we're listening to Realm of Ash and Blood by Solithus, right? These are albums that are well-crafted death doom that kind of sonically reflect what's going on, kind of sonically reflect how we feel, but at the same time, they're so thoughtful that at some points, especially in this album in particular, some of it kind of feels triumphant with these searing guitar solos. Barnacles. These guitar solos pierce every track they're on, and it's wonderful because the tracks are so dense and so deeply layered that you're like, dude, how? But they do a great job of making them sound natural and making them cut through the mix and be impactful. This is a great album. This is a wonderful album. This is an album that if you are not listening to it in the year of our Lord and Savior 2020, I highly suggest you get your act together and you go listen to it. The name of this album again is called Devouring Ruin by Canadian grind death doom metal band Wake. This is now on Transition Lost Records. Go pick it up on Bandcamp. Go pick it up on their website, wherever you can get it. Support your bands. I'm telling you, support your bands, especially now. We all need to say, I have a fly flying through here. I'm going to get that joker. Until next time, guys. Until next time, I am your man's Nic Rattlehead, and somewhere off in the ether is my man's with the master playing 100 grand. What's your name, man? Matt the Graff. Matt the Graff. Oh, I love you, man. And we are Aftershock Reviews. Until next time, wash your hands. Support your bands. Peace.